Okay. Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
Okay. So my name is Sanjeev Verma, and I'm delighted to welcome you to this session on effective communication. At the start of all sessions that I conduct, I like to get to know the participants, and I usually ask for a 2 to 3 minute introduction. But since there are 35 or so of us, and a 3 minute introduction will mean 105 minutes. Um, and it'll only leave us 15 minutes for effective communication. I thought we'd leave the introductions out. Um, so maybe we can get started. Shall we?
Yes, sir.
Yes, Sanjeev, please.
Okay. So I'm going to share my screen with you and we'll begin. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes,
Yes,
Sanjeev.
sir.
Okay. Okay. So let me just briefly talk about how it's going to go the next 2 hours. Um, we're going to first talk about, I'll first set the context for what we are going to talk about. But the first item that we'll take up is how should we be writing emails to candidates. Following which we'll talk about how to pitch the job description to candidates. And then we'll move on to how you can highlight the strengths and weaknesses of individual candidates to hiring managers that you're working with. We'll then talk about how to cement strong relationships with your stakeholders. Um, and I have come up with a list of 7 tips, seven, I think it is, 7 tips for effective communication. And that's how we will end. I will say that let's make the session interactive. So I don't want to, indulge in a monologue. Although for large parts that's what it will be, since I'm the one who's going to be presenting and talking. But I'd like to hear from you. But rather than have a conversation throughout, we can perhaps set aside 15 minutes at the end. So we have 2 hours together, 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock. So maybe about 15 minutes at the end where you can ask me whatever question you have. However, while I'm talking, if there's anything that's not clear to you and you'd like me to expand on it or explain it further, do raise your hand and or raise a hand virtually, and you can ask me, but it should be relevant to what I'm saying. Otherwise, it tends to disturb one's train of thought. So that's how we're going to do it. This is me. I've been a journalist. I've been a newsreader. I've been compare and film and media critic. And I was head of corporate communications and branding for companies like Max New York Life, Moser Bear, Reliance Power, and also Dell. But for the last 6-7 years, I'm now a trainer. I train in communication skills, particularly in writing skills. I'm a columnist in newspapers still. Some newspapers still think that I'm worthy of publishing. So as and when they reach out to me, I write for them. I write mostly on media-related subjects, film in particular. And I'm a content specialist, so I write for C-suite executives. I do thought leadership writing for them. So that's little sort of something about me. This is what we are going to be talking about. I'm going to give you tips for working with candidates and what are the basic essentials of this communication. So maybe I can stop the screen sharing for a little bit so that we can so that I can set the context. It might seem a little bit strange to you, but I'm going to start by talking about what recruitment means. It's a straightforward word, recruitment. We perhaps all understand what it means. It means you're finding the right talent for your client, and your client, of course, is the employer. It is indeed that you are filling a staffing need. But if you step back and take a broader look at recruitment and the importance of your job, you will see that there are stages in that recruitment process. You identify the talent, you communicate with him or her, you attract the right person to the role, and you recommend that candidate then to the hiring manager. A good recruiter will be the confidant of the hiring manager. So, long story cut short, talent acquisition is a critical role. It is a critical blend of understanding the interests of the employer with that of potential candidates. Now, the employer depends critically on you, the recruiter, to source the talent, and wants you to use a robust filtration process to present the client with the best options for open positions. Am I making sense? Can you hear me clearly? And am I going too fast? Am I going too slow? Am I
No, sir, it
talking
was
sense?
clear.
It's okay?
Yeah,
I'll
thank you.
carry on in this vein. Okay, all right. So central to this balancing act that you have to perform is communication. And in the next 2 hours, we're going to talk about what you need to do to communicate effectively with candidates. Basically, stay in touch with the candidate from what I call the pre-application stage to the job offer stage. So briefly, if I could talk about these 4 phases, there's the pre-application phase where primarily you will rely on email communication. And we'll shortly talk about emails and look at some templates also that I've developed in the past day or two. Next, after the pre-application phase comes the phase where comes the application phase. And here you will use and also more immediate communication channels like messaging, whether it's a short messaging service, SMS or WhatsApp. And for even greater urgency, you will, of course, use audio calls for status updates and so on. The third stage is the interview phase or stage. And that's where you will need all modes of communication. You will use an email perhaps to set out details of the interview, but messaging and calls for more matters of coordination. And it's important to remember that you are the principal touch point for the candidate. They will reach out to you for whatever it is that they want to know. It's a period of great anxiety for them. So you need to communicate with them, keeping in mind their feelings and their anxiety levels. And it's important that you make yourself available to them, whether the whole process is going well or not, in the sense that whether they're getting the job or not, you still should make yourself available to candidates. And finally, the fourth phase is the post-application phase. It's important that you always tell candidates about the decision made by the employer. And this is really the closing of the loop. And if you do that, it enhances your credibility as a recruiter. The point is that if you handle all of these phases well, you will build your brand as a recruiter while being in the good books of both the employer as well as the candidate. And so be positive, be authentic, be yourself, and be prepared to answer questions. So we'll first talk about email communication. I'm going to share my screen with you again so that you can look at the slides while I'm saying what I want to say. And I'll keep cutting between the slides have myself on the screen entirely. So let me go back to sharing my screen. Okay. You can see my screen? Yes?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So email writing creates strong impressions. So these are some general things that I'm going to talk about how emails should be written. Email writing, usually, especially in the context that we are talking about, you're going to send an email to somebody you've never met before. And depending on what you write and how you write, the person who receives your email is going to form an impression about you. So it's important to ensure that what you write, the few lines that you write, are error-free, as free of error as possible. And I like to say that emails are like first impressions. Unfortunately or fortunately, all human beings are extremely judgmental. So in a physical scenario, if a few people are sitting in the room and a new person walks into that room, depending on how he or she is dressed and how the person looks, we tend to form a first impression about that person. And this is true for emails as well. You write an email, you send it to somebody, and an impression forms in my mind about what kind of person you are. So, for instance, if your email has 2 or 3 spelling errors in the first sentence, my impression about you is not going to be particularly positive. Um, uh, on the other hand, if it's a well-written email, uh, no errors and nicely laid out, I will form a reasonably positive impression about you. So that's about first impressions. Important also to remember that email is not a document. From layout to sentence pattern, it is written differently. So make it brief and make it absolutely to the point. Say what you want to say in the very first sentence. Don't waste time in niceties and asking how's life and what's going on and those sort of things. Just get to the point straight away. So short sentences, divvy the text into small bites. So I like to say that short sentences basically means write sentences which have between 10 to 12 words and only include about 2 or 3 sentences to a paragraph. Every time you type 2 sentences in an email, you can press enter or return on your keyboard. Then email is about courtesy and about decorum. Always, and there's no exception. So always, include courtesies and maintain decorum. So always begin your email. There's every email that I write, and this is true for, I opened my first email account in the year 1996. That's what, 28 years ago. And since that day, I've started every email that I've written with dear and the person's name. And I always end it by saying regards, and then I sign my name. Of course, I don't do that when I write to my son or to my wife, but or people very close to me. You don't need to be so formal, but in a professional environment, always maintain courtesy and always maintain decorum. And like I said, don't waffle. Say what you want to say in the very first sentence. Just get to the point straight away. I'm going to show you a template soon. But just a few more things about email writing. It's important to come up with a subject line. Every email has a subject line. Let your subject line talk. It should make amply clear what it is that you're writing about. So if you are writing to a candidate with a possible job opportunity is what the subject line should be. If you're writing for an interview, if it's reached that stage for the candidate, then let it say your interview or whatever, or words to that effect. And subject lines are usually 3 or 4 words, carefully chosen. So if I tell people that I speak with, people I conduct sessions like this with, that if you spend, let's say, 5 minutes writing an email, spend 5 minutes writing an email, but spend another 5 minutes finding the right opening line and the subject line. Research shows that if your subject line is vague, or if you've by mistake left it blank, 1/3 of the people will never open your email and read it. That's how important the subject line is. So that's what you should do. Use proper salutations and sign-off lines. I just talked about that. So always say dear or hi. Hi is okay as a salutation. Hi Tasmia or hi Avneet. And then say what you want to say, followed by a comma and then paragraph space, and then you talk about what you want to say. And sign-off lines can be best regards. Some people say kind regards, warm regards, whatever it is. But have a nice, polite sign-off line too. I always sign, like I said, saying regards and then my name. Attaching and enclosing documents, say that you are attaching a document. Don't just assume that because there's an icon at the end of your mail or somewhere within your mail, there's that icon which shows that a PDF file or a Word file is attached, that attention will go to it. You must state as part of your email that you have enclosed a document. You may have a good vocabulary. It's a very nice thing to have, but email writing is not the place for parading your good vocabulary. So use the simplest of words. There's a lovely word in English language which is called perspicacious. It's a very long word and it's a very nice word, but don't go using perspicacious, that you are perspicacious. If I don't know the meaning of perspicacious and you call me perspicacious, I might think you are saying something terribly rude to me. But of course, perspicacious means you're wise and you're sharp. So say you're wise and sharp rather than you are perspicacious. Proofread your email. Don't send an email with spelling and grammatical gaffes. Howlers, gaffes is a synonym for howlers and mistakes, a huge mistake. I see spelling and grammatical errors as a big thing, and I think most people do. So after you've written an email, even though you're in a hurry to send it, just look at it once, maybe even twice if it's a very important mail, and especially when you're writing to, let's say, the chief executive of a company, you should never send an email with mistakes. So proofread it. Write short, simple sentences, 2 or 3 sentences to a paragraph, and it's important. This last point is of great importance. Recipients mostly shouldn't have to scroll down to read your email. So the ideal size of an email, and there are exceptions, of course, but more often than not, an email should be about 100 to 150 words, not more than that. If you have to write a long email in some circumstances, then that's okay. But if it's particularly long, if it's going to be 300-400 words long, then you should consider attaching a document with the mail. Mostly emails are now read on smartphones or tablets and so on. So keep that in mind and write the mail accordingly. People shouldn't have to scroll to read your email. And I can tell you from experience, I've been doing email writing skills for a long time. The sight of a 500, somebody sends you a 500-word email, it is extremely depressing. to be confronted with that, and you don't particularly want to read so much to learn so little. So that's the context for email writing. And here I've put up a email template. So this is the pre-application stage. It short and sweet, subject line important. You can say job opportunity, for instance, and let's assume that the candidate you're communicating with is called Archana. So you say, I'm writing to you on behalf of Herky, India's largest career community for women, with a potential opportunity. We're looking to hire. You can include the job title for one of our clients, have the company name, and I think your experience could possibly fit the bill. I'm sorry about the typo here. I just did it. So fit, it's not for. And this goes against what I've just been saying, that proofread carefully. So it's fit the bill. My apologies for the spelling error. If you are interested in learning more about the position, we could set up a quick phone call. Would you be available for this call or virtual meeting? And you can mention the date or time. We look forward to hearing from you soon. Regards, and your name, and also that you represent Herky. So that's the first email template. Does it make sense? Do say yes or no, or
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, yes.
So I'll move on.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So
Yes.
here's another template. Here the subject line is interview availability. So you are setting up an interview with the candidate. So you again writing to Archana, you say, I'm happy to inform you that we're moving forward with the interview process at, and the company's name. We'd like to schedule, mention the interview format. Is it a face-to-face interview? It is a virtual interview. What kind of an interview is it? With, let's say, if it's the HR head of a company, you mention the position as well as the name of the person. And the interview will last approximately, if you have a sense of that, you can say it last approximately, whatever, 45 minutes or less or more. Are you available on the 15th of June at 10:30 in the morning? I need you to reply to my mail with your availability before the end of business hours today, and say it politely, something like this. But it's important to make the point. I need you to reply to my mail with your availability before the end of business hours, so that all that is required, the logistics can be put in place. On behalf of Herky, I wish you the very best. You sign off by wishing Archana the very best for her interview, and then regards and your name. I'll move on. I have one more template. Okay, now this is critical. Let's assume it's not worked out after the interview and you have to write a rejection email. Now, this is very, very important how you phrase it. So your subject line says your application for the job title at the company's name. Dear Archana, your interview for the position of whatever it was went well, and you were in strong contention. However, I regret to inform you that another candidate in a strong list of applicants has been chosen instead. We at Herky appreciate your interest and diligence in putting your best foot forward for the role. We will keep your resume on file and reach out if we think you'd be a good fit for other roles, either at this same company or a suitable position at any of our other client organizations. Meanwhile, please keep your profile updated with us, I should have added, for future opportunities that may be a better fit. All the best, Archana. We truly appreciate your time and consideration. It's polite, it's communicated the message gently, although you're talking about the person not getting the job, so there's inherent disappointment in that. But write professionally, don't sort of hold back, but make it make it a mail that has empathy, it has a bit of um, feeling and compassion. Yes, we'll move on.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So let me move on to the next thing that we're going to talk about, and that is we're going to talk about job description. So the importance of job description is immense. How you should pitch the job description to candidates, and how effective and proactive coordination with hiring managers and candidates can help make you a successful recruiter. So a compelling job description has a very powerful impact on the success of your recruiting efforts, which is why you need to put a lot of effort into it. You need to present it in a way that it stands out for what could be for the candidate a crowd of job descriptions. Um, so, so I think we should look at my screen again. So, more often than not, the client or the hiring manager will give you a long and detailed job description, which of course you should share with the candidate. But as a recruiter, as a headhunter, I think that's what they're still called. In the days that I was in the corporate world, they were only known as headhunters or executive search companies or executive search um, associates. So you should put in a fair bit of work on it, on the job description, and highlight things for your own communication with the candidate. So don't just forward the job description, work on it. Focus most of all on what the candidate's job responsibilities are going to be, and highlight 3 or 4 key responsibilities. Again, from my experience, I can tell you that that um, uh, the responsibilities, companies put some list of 10 or 15 things. These are all going to be your responsibilities, but have a conversation with the hiring manager and ask the hiring manager to isolate 2 or 3 critical things and highlight those for the candidate. Also highlight nice to have skill sets like good writing skills or the ability to carry a group of people along. The idea is to pique the interest of candidates, to get them interested in what it is that you're talking about. And it's it's something that I wanted to tell you about, how you should always maintain a good relationship with the candidate, whether or not the person's got a good job, um, has got the job. Um, I thought I'd tell you a little bit about my own experience. Uh, I was very keen many years ago, 15 or 20 years ago. I was very keen on a job at GSK. GSK is GlaxoSmithKline, a British company in India, GlaxoSmithKline Beecham. I was very keen on the position of head of corporate communications and branding. Um, I was working that time for Moser, and I was dealing with this executive search company. I had several meetings with them, and it seemed clear to me that I was going to get the job. But right at the end, it was between me and another lady, and the company chose not me, but the lady. And it was quite a blow for me because I was quite looking forward to getting this job. But the executive search company handled it wonderfully well. They firstly shared with me the fact that, there'd been some 15, 20 people who were interviewed and so on, and you were in the final two. And the only reason why the other person was chosen is because she had previous background in FMCG and pharma, which is what GSK does. Whereas my background was in financial services and information technology. I'd worked for Dell, I'd worked for Max New York Life, and those sort of companies. So financial services and information technology. Whereas my rival for the job had background in the relevant industries. So they preferred that, and it was a devastating blow for me. But I understood that this is how sometimes companies can think. Um, but the reason I've told you the story is that the same executive search company came back to me 5 or 6 years later and said to me, "Would you be interested in a position at Reliance Power in Bombay?" And again, I liked the idea, and I went for interviews. I flew down to Bombay at least 4 times, I remember, and eventually it worked out, and I got that job. It's the same person that I dealt with 6 years apart. First time it didn't work out for the reason that I just described. The second time it worked out. So, he had managed to uh, sustain this relationship with me, and got me a position when the right position arrived. So I just thought I'd forgotten to, I had it in my mind to tell you about this, and it slipped my mind. So when it came back to me, I thought I'd talk about it. Okay, so coming back to this slide that you're looking at, the fourth point, highlight nice to have skill sets like good writing skills. If you have good writing skills, they always matter in a corporate environment. And I've spoken to several HR heads of several companies, many of whom have become friends of mine, and they say that even at the resume stage, if there are 20 resumes that they've shortlisted, they will prefer 2 or 3 resumes which are well written and well formatted. They look attractive. When it comes to, let's say there's only one position and 2 or 3 people are in contention for that position, again, writing skills come in, and somebody who is a better communicator is likely to get the job. There is only one job. There are 3 claimants for it. The person who will get it is the one who writes well. Also highlight the location of the position. Is it a hybrid position? And this whole thing about hybrid working, or home working, or fully physical location working. These are all key factors in these times that we live in, post-pandemic. Sorry. My apologies. Sorry, my throat. Um, Focus on learning opportunities. Talk to the candidate about what learning opportunities will come from this position. And the candidate should clearly be able to see what it could possibly mean for him or her. And give also in your job description and your cover note that you write to the candidate, give him or her an idea about team and colleagues, the organizational structure, as well as the reporting relationship, maybe the culture and atmosphere in the company. Some of these things, if you provide a fully rounded sort of view of the position, then you are really helping the candidate, and you're going beyond the obvious relationship that a recruiter has with a potential candidate. Yeah, and so this again is a sample that I've come up with, a job description sample. So the job description that you will get from the employer, from the hiring manager, will be very long. It will be perhaps 5 or 6 pages. or maybe definitely 2 or 3 pages. But this is where you can make a difference. You can add a cover note to it, say job title. So I've said head of communications here, just an example. It could be anything, technical manager or whatever. So job title, in bold, location, what the location is, reports to the chief executive officer. Um, Key responsibilities include formulating and implementing communication strategies for sensitive as well as urgent company announcements in an effective manner. Developing and implementing an integrated communication strategy for the company, including its external and internal um, communications and leadership brand building. Third point, provide counsel on strategic communication plans and build the company's profile as an industry thought leader. Essential professional skills needed, you can say the position requires strong editing and writing skills. It requires creating opportunities for the company to stay in the limelight, which means that there should be, media coverage and ability to work across geographies and cultures. And you should have the ability to both lead cross-functional teams. And the position requires strong knowledge of both the external environment and internal customer needs. It requires innovation to deliver objectives, and of paramount importance for the role are people skills and high integrity. So if you were to include a note like this along with the job description when you're sending it to the candidate, I think it makes a difference because it really means that you've drilled down into the job description, you've looked at it very closely and pulled out the most important elements and are then presenting it to the candidate. So you're doing the candidate a great favor. Okay. Just give me a moment. I'm going to have a sip of water. My throat is playing up a little bit. Okay. So next, we're going to talk about something that is at the heart of the talent acquisition process. Or maybe we can do it differently. And I've talked about 2 things, and I'm in all going to talk about 4 things. So at this halfway stage, perhaps I can ask you if you have questions. You can ask me now about what we've discussed so far. So we've discussed email writing, and we talked about job description and how to pitch it to a candidate. Any questions that I can answer which relate to these 2 subjects? Or if I've been absolutely clear and crystal clear and it's all absolutely clear in your mind, then I'll move on. Okay, so maybe I should move on. So as a recruiter, you need to constantly assess candidates. You thank you. Somebody saying so far good. Thank you, and I hope it remains good the rest of the time too. So you need to, as a recruiter, constantly assess candidates, evaluate them, compare them with other available candidates, and and indulge in a process. Sorry, there's a question, Kirtana. how to bring it down to. Kirtana, can you talk about what it is that you're wanting to ask?
When you were telling about the job description, is it really necessary to bring it down to just 3 or 4 key responsibilities for the candidate?
It's not necessary. It's a nice thing to do,
Okay.
and bear in mind that you should have a conversation with the employer, with the
Okay.
hiring manager, and
Mm.
ask the hiring manager to highlight 3 or 4 key things.
Okay.
Now, it's these 15 things that have been put down as part of job responsibilities. That's too many. It's you. I mean, normally a person cannot have all of those qualities.
Mm-mm.
But ask the hiring manager to highlight the 3 most critical things, or 4 or 5. I'm not stuck on the number of 3 responsibilities, but it can be 5, it can be 6. But and if the hiring manager is of the opinion that these 6 things are absolutely crucial,
Mm.
then mention 6, not 3 or 4.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you, sir.
you're most welcome. Thank you for asking the question, and you should get a chocolate for asking the first question, Kirtana. So I'll ask Avneet later if that can happen. We'll see. Anyway, so as a recruiter, as I was saying, you need to constantly assess candidates, evaluate them, compare them, and indulge in a process that culminates eventually in the best talent coming to the fore. And obviously, you want to do it on the basis of um, job requirements and the relevant skill sets needed for the position. So let me go back to sharing my screen. So this assessment process, I think, is really a critical cog in the wheel. So what you're doing is you are separating the wheat from the chaff, which is a bit of a cliche, but here I think it's relevant because you're dealing with several candidates, and what you're trying to do is to highlight the best ones, have them come to the fore, and once you've gone through that process, you will shortlist names, and then you will present them to the client, to the employer or the hiring manager. So it's a very critical part of the whole process. Um, and therefore, it is something that you should do with great diligence and devotion. So the idea is to assess the strengths and weaknesses of the shortlisted candidates. Uh, don't focus too much on weaknesses because if you do, then it's sort of self-defeating. It doesn't work for the candidate. But focus on the strengths that you. Let's say you've come up with a list of 4 or 5 candidates that you are presenting to the employer. Um, have a very clear sort of indication of their strengths and weaknesses. More strengths than weaknesses, like I said. And obviously, you do it on the basis of the job requirements and the skill levels um, of the candidate. There's a matrix that you can create where you define rating levels and you assign weights and arrive at aggregate. And I've got a sample for you a little later. I'll show it to you how you can do it. Very simple way of doing it. I sat this morning and compiled it, so I'll be able to show it to you. Remember, as a recruiter, your key role is to facilitate decision making in talent acquisition. Um, that's your role. You're facilitating the decision making. The decision will be made by the employer, but by knowing the candidate, by liaising with the candidate and the hiring manager, you are facilitating that decision making. So it's a critical and an important role that you are playing. Depending on the employer, the role that you're recruiting for, Um, the assessment includes education. So your advice to the client will be, education. These are the degrees or certificates. The experience that the person has. Tenures are important. I know again from experience that um, while experience counts, companies look at how long was your tenure at the companies that you worked with in the past. So if you seem to have a habit of um, changing the company every couple of years, that doesn't sound good to a potential employer. However, if you've been with a company for 7 years, 8 years, and then you've changed once, and then you've again stayed 7 or 8 or 6 or 7 years with the next company, then that's a comfort level for me that this is not a person that will leave for a few rupees more, and will instead, respect the the brand that he or she is working with and the position and all that the person's getting out of the job, not just about money. Um, Highlight the competencies, technical competencies. So depending on what role it is, you highlight those technical skills that the person has, uh, and highlight other competencies. Like I said, these other competencies are almost as important. Um, Although you want specialists for specialist jobs, but you look for competencies like communication skills, writing skills. Um, are you a team leader? Are you a team player? Both. There are situations where you need to be a good team player, and not sort of be overly dominating. And a team leader, on the other hand, is assigned a team leader, but you want to sort of take everybody's view on board and move forward after you've sort of heard everybody out. So all of those skills, if the person has a proven track record of these skills, you should highlight those. Then, of course, you'll have quantitative KPIs. KPI, of course, being key performance indicator. So quantitative key KPIs, how is the person in managing budgets? So after a certain, I mean, this is not true for beginners, but middle level managers and all that, you manage budgets. So what is your track record in managing budgets? Are you good with them? Do you understand how budgeting is done and so on? So some of those quantitative KPIs, and then qualitative KPIs, uh, effective planning and forging external relationships. Are you good at those? So um, you highlight those two. And finally, you focus on the individual's personality traits. So does does he or she have leadership qualities, managing a team, and many of these things will emerge from your conversations, perhaps with the candidate. Enthusiasm, patience, empathy, listening skills. Uh, Empathy and listening skills are very important. On listening skills, I'm going to talk a little bit more a little later. But good people are those who feel a certain empathy for others. And this is really something which I developed just this morning. So this is the matrix that I was talking about, assessment matrix. So you have what, I think about 18 or 19 candidates. You've got their names, and against all that you have specific skills. So strategic thinking and sorry, I'll just. Yeah. I don't know what's happened to my screen. Just give me a moment. So strategic, can you see my screen still?
Yes, Sandeep.
Yes, sir.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, sir.
So strategic thinking, writing prowess, people skills, education, tenured leadership team. So out of 10, you can, you can rate the person according to your understanding, which has been gained over a period of time. You can make this assessment, you can create a matrix and add it all up at the end. And the person with the highest score, or 4 or 5 or 6 people with the highest scores, you can go ahead and present them to the employer or the hiring manager as potential candidates who would be ideal for the job. Um, so here in this case, one candidate, all the candidates that I've highlighted seem to be women, but that's okay. These are all imaginary. It's an imaginary setting, imaginary names, but 48, 44, 43, 38, 40. These are the top scores. You pick up those candidates, and so this is a sort of very exact and scientific way of going about it. Any questions on this? Or should I move on? Okay. Okay. How do you do it for time? Okay. Am I going too fast? Okay. Sorry,
Sir, you're clear.
I'm not clear. Sorry, what did you say?
No, you're clear, sir.
I'm clear. Okay.
Yeah.
So I have one question.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, so actually just want to know how can we assess the qualitative KPI for the higher level management or the middle level management?
Qualitative KPIs. That will come from the person's track record in previous companies. I mean, this is not something that you can arrive at for a fresher, but for somebody who's got experience, um, you also need to do a little bit of, I'm sure, uh, I'm not absolutely certain how executive search companies work, but you do a little bit of background check. Isn't that right, Avneet? If you're looking at candidates, you will do a little bit of background check as well. You will find out from previous companies how the person's performed in those organizations, and quick calls to the HR manager and so on of a previous company. And how does the person fare on these qualitative KPIs, planning and so on. Is that correct, Avneet? Avneet's not here. Did I answer your question?
Yes, yes, sir. Thank
Yes,
you.
Sanjay,
I
absolutely
did.
right.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Okay, let's move on. So how to become a smart recruiter? That's something which um, I want to talk about. Uh, it is it is important that you don't see it as transactional, this whole relationship with um, the candidate. If you don't see it purely as a transactional thing, you will do well for yourself. If you are open, if you are honest, and if you are transparent, over a period of time, the candidate will come to trust you. And once you reach that trust level, it really will set you apart from other recruiters. There's so many recruiters who are all sort of gunning for talent in the market, wanting to acquire that talent. And if you are open, you're honest, you're transparent, you are forthcoming, you don't avoid calls, you don't sort of, if something's not working in the favor of the candidate, if you just, disappear, that's not something that builds your brand. It's something which detracts from it. So it's important to build a reputation for being somebody who's always forthcoming. Uh, the the other important thing is promptness. Uh, you need to be prompt in whatever it is that you're doing, because always remember, it's a period of great anxiety for the candidate, and this anxiety can be for several reasons. It can be anxiety because it's a dream job, and the candidate is very keen on getting it. There could be anxiety because maybe you are in between jobs, and you must find a replacement job immediately, so you're very anxious because you don't want to lose your earnings, your position, and so on, for a variety of reasons. And it could also be anxiety just because there's peer pressure on you. I mean, you don't want somebody you see as a rival getting the job and not you. uh, so for various reasons, it's a period of anxiety. But if you are open and absolutely truthful and transparent with the candidate, the person will come to trust you. And that then becomes your differentiator. Feeling and empathy is something that I like to focus on a lot. Uh, so there's empathy. So let me say this. Uh, Sometimes people think that empathy and compassion are the same thing, but they're not. Empathy is an emotion and compassion is an action. So, for instance, you're traveling in the metro and you see an old person who's standing. Um, Empathy is that you feel sorry for the person who's standing, and you feel sad that, why is this person standing? Compassion is that you do something about it, not just feel sorry, but you do something about it. So you get up and you offer your seat to that person. That's compassion. So empathy and compassion, if you exercise it, and you exercise it well, and in most situations, you will earn the trust of the candidate. They will value you, and you will not just be, they, and they will be able to see that they're not just another candidate that you're dealing with. So these are important things for um, a recruiter. Um, I'm going to talk about 7 tips for effective communication. We have enough time, so I'll focus on each one of these 7 tips at length. I think I may have not realized that um, um, I don't have enough to say it today. The enough content. There are 4 things that I thought I'd talk about, and I thought it would cover most part of the 2 hours. So I may have miscalculated, but we have another session coming up where we're going to talk about a different set of things. But let me just leave you with these 7 tips for effective communication, and I will dwell at some length on these. Always use simple communication. So you don't need to indulge in industry jargon. Um, a lot of people are very sort of fond of using jargon. Um, and I can tell you that when I was a journalist, I did not have to make any presentations. I had presentations made to me. But when I changed my field, and from a journalist, I became a corporate communicator. I joined a company called Satyam Infoway in Chennai. And And within the first couple of weeks, I had to make a presentation to my boss, who was the CEO of the company. And so I talked about, what the portal should have and so on. And the 10 minutes into the presentation, he said, okay, I see what you're saying, but what's your call to action? And I had never heard the phrase call to action. I had no idea what it meant. I was a journalist. Uh, Till then, I'd never heard the phrase call to action. So, but I like to think that I think on my feet and I can come up with responses very quickly. So I tried to think what this phrase could possibly mean. I didn't want to ask him what does it mean? What is call to action? So I thought to myself what it could mean, and I said to him, my call to action to my team members is going to be, come on, guys, we can do it. And he was shocked. His mouth fell open and he said, what are you talking about? And, call to action, of course, means what is it that you want your customer to do? I mean, from all that you're saying, what's the outcome? What is the outcome that you're looking at? What's your action point? Today, of course, um, having spent so much time in the corporate world and now the last 6, 7 years as a trainer, I fully understand what call to action means, but it's jargon. So as far as possible, stay away from industry jargon. We think that everyone should know this piece of jargon, everyone should be familiar with it. But it's quite possible that people are not. So make it easy for them. Don't make it forbidding. Also set clear expectations. Be clear about the role that you're offering to a candidate. And very importantly, just do not make any promises. Any promises that you cannot keep, and you are a recruiter, the decision rests with the employer, the hiring manager. You're not in a position to make promises. Make promises about, I'll take a week to come back to you, and make those kind of promises which you can keep. But don't make promises like, oh, you're certain to get the job. It's a false expectation that you've created. So always use simple words. Don't use complicated language and jargon, and always keep it simple. And as the cliche goes, simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. So always when you are in the process of using a big sounding word, um, remember that there's always a simple alternative. So use simple communication. So connected to what I just said, take the communication schedule seriously. If you have set out to the candidate that it will, the whole process is going to take 2 weeks or 3 weeks, only say that when you're reasonably certain that that's going to happen. But if you've said to the candidate you'll take a week to come back on how the interview went, assuming it's reached the interview stage, and you've said that you will take a week to come back on how the interview went, you must do that, even if the client is going to take much longer. There's nothing you can do about it. Clients do take their own sweet time for whatever reason. That's not in your hand. What is in your hand is that to the candidate, you said that you will take a week to come back. So you must go back a week later and give the correct position that it's going to take much longer than I anticipated. You'll have to be patient. It's going to take another, whatever, a week, 10 days, 2 weeks, whatever the case may be. So take the communication schedule seriously and don't avoid calls. It's a period of anxiety for the candidate. And they will call you. They will call you repeatedly if they're very keen on the job, which one is assuming they are. And take the call. If you can't take the call at that point, call them back, but don't make it look as if you are avoiding the candidate. Find out what is the ideal communication channel. I have dealt with over the long part of my career, I've dealt with several executive search companies. And the people that I've appreciated the most are the ones who check with me uh, what is the mode of communication that you're most comfortable with. Because they are aware of the fact that if I'm already working at, let's say, Dell, it's very unlikely that I want to receive a call from an executive search company during working hours. I could be, in a meeting. I could be with somebody in the management. I could be with colleagues, and it's very odd to get a call at that time, and and to have to excuse yourself and go into a meeting room or find a quiet spot and to have a conversation there. It seems very suspect also, and that's not something that you should be doing. So talk to the candidate, ask what is the best way of contacting you, and respect that opinion. Find out what they preferred. Would you ask them, would you like me to only use your personal email ID and say whatever I have to on email? Can I use messaging? If so, you know, is it okay to message you any time of the day, or should I wait for working hours to end? And certainly for calls, you should be very, very clear when you can call and when you can't. And doing some of these things will earn you the trust of the candidate. So even though I've shown you quite a few templates, email templates, and the assessment matrix and so on, but I'm now saying don't use templatized responses. So in some of the cases, for the purposes of what we are doing today, which is talking about effective communication and demonstrating some of the methods that make communication effective, templates are great. They save time, they save effort. You are able to show exactly what you're trying to say. But by and large, in personalized communication, uh, templates are terrible. So if you've created a template inviting applications for a job as a recruiter, and you just change the name of the person, uh, over a period of time, it'll become obvious that that's what you do. So sort of horses for strategy is what you need to follow. Think of things, especially in an advanced stage of negotiations with a candidate. Don't use templates because we must accept that templates can come across as impersonal because one size doesn't fit all. Introduce some personal elements and and deal with the candidate. It makes them feel so much more valued. Try and personalize your communication in every sense. So let's go to the fifth tip. I said I'm going to talk about listen. So here it is. Listen, just listen. And before I say what I want to any further, um, do you know anyone who knows what an anagram is? Anagram? No? An anagram is a word or a phrase or name which is formed by rearranging the letters of another. So if you look at listen, it has L, it has I, S, T, E, N. Using the same letters and rearranging them, you get silent. So silent is S-I-L-E-N-T. Listen is L-I-S-T-E-N. The same letters, the 6-letter words, both of them. And it's interesting because you can only listen if you are silent. So practice the art and recognize the power of listening. There's so much to be gained by being silent and listening. It's important for recruiters to to ask candidates questions to get a better sense of their skill level, personality, and things of that nature. The more questions that you ask, greater clarity you will get. But it's also important to take a step back and just listen and give the candidate or the job seeker a chance to tell his or her story and let you know what they need. One of the important experiences that I've had dealing with executive search companies, one very good one that I dealt with many years ago. This person would took me out for a meal once and wanted to know what my career goals were, what my ambitions were, where did I see myself 10 or 15 years hence, and wanted to know this because he was then going to present me as a strong candidate to the employer. And I think that sort of strategy is absolutely wonderful. I appreciated what he was trying to do, and that's something which will always hold you in good stead. So get the job seeker to tell you their stories. Everybody has stories. Everybody has ambitions. Everybody sort of is targeting a certain outcome. If you know what that outcome is, you can help them get there better. Yeah. Develop a list of FAQs. FAQs are frequently asked questions. It's important for a recruiter if you are able to anticipate questions and practice answers that you can offer to candidates. So build a list of, I don't know, 15, 20, 25, 30, whatever. Think of all the possible questions that candidates can come up with. Look at what has happened in the past. If you're just starting as a recruiter, there's plenty that you can find on a Google search and so on. But ask your colleagues, what are the kind of things that candidates want to know? And get those questions on board and come up with answers for those questions. These are basic answers to fundamental questions very often, and it's almost certain. I'm absolutely sure that if you build a robust bank of FAQs, let's say about 30, 40 questions, most of the answers that people expect to their questions come from these 30, 40 questions. So if you've got these answers with you, you can then use them, and then of course you can personalize them, customize them, change the answer. Don't come up with the same answer for a specific question, but you can change it. But when you have a bank of FAQs, it really helps. I have in all positions that I've held been very focused on having FAQs, and it's always been helpful. It also frees you up to answer any new questions or concerns with enthusiasm, because specific things that people want to know, and a new situation, a tricky situation that you need to find a solution to, you will then go at it with greater enthusiasm. So personalize your responses, but have the FAQ sheet ready as well. And ask for feedback and take corrective steps. All these executive search companies that I've dealt with, that I've been talking about, they've all asked me for feedback. What went well? What could have gone better? And it needn't be, it needn't be a form that you send to them. You can talk to them. You can, after a position is closed, whether in your favor or not, you can, the recruiter can ask you out for a cup of coffee, for instance, and have a chat with you. How did it go? Did I, is there something that you think I could have done better? And the more you hear feedback like that, it gives you areas where you can improve. So these dialogues are very important. They're important at every stage of the recruitment process, but especially at the end, no matter how it's ended, whether positively or otherwise, it's important to have a dialogue and encourage frankness, encourage say that what you're going to say, if you say it absolutely candidly and truthfully, it will really help me, rather than give me standard responses, oh, you were great and wonderful and so on. So that kind of frankness will help. um so what's the time? I somehow thought that I had more content than I needed, and this is what I had prepared for today. But we have sufficient time, and maybe I'll come up with a few more things to say to you. But I want to hear from you on the basis of what I've said to you so far. Are there any questions that I can answer? I know we've had a few questions earlier, but do tell me what I can clarify for you further.
So I have one question.
Yes, what's your name?
My name is Rekha. Rekha Shivsan.
Your name is Rekha.
Rekha, yeah, Rekha Shivsan.
Yes, Rekha. Go ahead.
So just want to ask you that all things, like I know, like you just said everything about the CV and everything, like mails and everything, but just want to know the point which should in top of the resume, that is aim and objective. We can write our aim and objective, right? So, what we can write in that? So it should be the precise our experience and qualifications, or it should be more precise or more relative with our future endeavors or future objective, with our career goals and with our like no, with our career and everything. So just want to know about that. What it should be, what we have to write in that in a particular manner on in regarding the like where we can apply for the any position or any specific role or any specific task in the organization. So just want to know that.
No, aims and objectives, you should be talking about what you want to do, where you want to be. This is typically what I like to do, or what I tell people that I know they should do, is write a summary right at the beginning of your resume. Um, Write a summary of what you've done, in a few sentences, and what it is that you are aiming for. Um, where do you want to get? So so to give you an example, which is close to what I do, um, when if I were to today write a resume, I would talk about 35 years or whatever of my career, give you a flavor of that in that one short paragraph. And then I will talk about what it is that I want to do, what I see myself doing over the next 5 years, 10 years. For younger people, obviously, you should look at a longer term horizon, and say that you want to become the best communicator possible, for instance. Uh, so make it aspirational, make it strongly ambitious. There's no problem with that. But aims and objectives, that's what you should focus on. Because the other thing you mentioned was education and all that. That's a matter of detail. Beyond the point, it doesn't matter what education you've had. If you've had a good career, if you've had a storied career where you've held strong positions in good companies, then you don't particularly need to. Education is more a formality that you're saying that this is what you studied. In my case, I studied commerce. I did BCom in from Delhi University, which has absolutely no relevance to what I've done the rest of my career. So it's while it's a graduation degree, which is important, uh, it is fairly meaningless in my life. So, and I'm giving my example because I can't give the examples of other people. I know similarly I know other people who've there's no correlation between what they've studied and what they've done the rest of their career. So it's aims and objectives. You should focus on what it is that um, you plan to do
Okay, sir.
and what your
Thank-
strengths are.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yes, any more questions? There are questions in chat, right? One second. Yes, go ahead.
Sir, this is
Uh,
yeah. Sir, this is Manjula.
Manjula.
Sir, in assessment matrix, what does strategic thinking mean?
Strategic thing is that you are able to talk about, so let's say your function is um, marketing. So strategic thinking is that how you are able to relate what marketing can do with the company's mission. What is the vision mission of the company? How it relates to your patch of the business. So you are uh, responsible for marketing. How can you help the company um, reach those goals, the purpose of the company, the vision and the mission? How can you support the company in that sense, both in terms of numbers, budgets, and so on, and how you can lend a helping hand. So every part of the company needs to come together to help the company realize that vision and mission. So that I think is strategic thinking. Strategic thinking is also that if you are looking at boosting, for instance, the image of the company, which is what corporate communicator does in the external world. So your strategic thinking is that I'm going to do these 3 or 4 things which will improve the image of the company. So I'm going to do a corporate film where I'm going to talk about the business that we are in, how we are different from others. I will do a conference. Maybe I will, we can sponsor an international conference. So some of these strategic steps that you can take, which ultimately end up in boosting the image of the company, and not just boosting the image of the company, but also they shore up the bottom line. So I think that's what strategic thinking is. But that strategic thinking, I just put as an example in the matrix at junior levels, at junior to mid levels. Maybe that's not something which is which is germane. I'm not sure about this, but I don't think it is. It's only at senior levels that you are assessed for your strategic thinking.
Okay. So
Yeah.
one more thing. So you told the job description will be provided by the hiring manager. So
Mhm.
what is the difference between a recruiter and a hiring manager?
Hiring manager is the person who represents the employer. So let's say the company is Dell, and Dell has appointed you know uh, a recruitment executive search company. So you are the recruiter. Dell HR manager is the hiring manager, and so it's been sublet to you. You've been asked as a recruiter to find the best talent for a particular position. So hiring manager is on the employer side.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. What else? Okay, I'm looking at the chat box. Vidya says how to end up a recruitment process. Can you elaborate what you have in mind, Vidya?
Yes, sir. What I'm asking is, as you said, we have to tell the applicant like we will with you after 1 week, like that. Then, if it is selected or not selected, we can just mail to them, or what is the form of like through email or through phone, in any mode we can choose.
Yeah, you can choose whatever mode. I think it's the idea is to break the news gently and be
Yeah.
polite, but say what the exact position is, not sugarcoat it. And if a mail you think works, you should send a mail. But I think a brief conversation is perhaps the best way of doing it. But it's all contextual. I mean, if you for a position, if there are several candidates that you're dealing with, maybe it's only two or three that you will actually have a conversation with. Um, so I think it's contextual, but it's nice to inform the person personally and break the news gently, even
Okay,
if
sir. I'm asking like if that person is not selected. So through phone call we will be little feel sorry to say him. So is it yeah, okay to
you
say?
will also feel sorry when you're writing a mail for sure. Uh,
Okay.
So you need to, which is why I said, you come up with some of these templatized responses. It will help over a period of time if you come up with the right phraseology, the right words.
Okay.
Sorry, sorry.
Okay, sir.
Then it will help you in that
Okay,
process.
one more question I asked you is,
Uh-huh.
we job description means what the company wants, and the uh, resume means what the applicant has. So if these both matches, which means the is the right person to select.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if there is a direct match between what I as a candidate am looking for in my career and the job description is exactly then that's a match made in heaven, perfect match. But I think the point I was making is that uh, get the employer to talk about four or five most important things in the job description. Otherwise, it tends to be a bit of a laundry list of job responsibilities of 15 or 20 things, and they obviously don't have equal weightage. So if you question the employer, you talk to them and sit them down and get them to isolate three or four most important things, then you can highlight those to the candidate. You're helping the candidate by doing that rather than, a huge list which he or she will then wade through.
Okay, in that case, how much percentage we can expect like a match? It won't be 100%. So how much percentage we should consider if we are in selection process? Like not that much complicated. Like I'm asking if in JD we have 7-8 points, if the other person's CV is matching with 4 or 5
See,
points, is it okay?
no, I don't think it works like that. There are, whenever job descriptions are made, and I have written job descriptions also as the head of corporate communications of companies that I've worked with. Um, there are five or six things that are a must-have for candidates. Those qualities, if you don't have, then there's no match. Um, But I also then include, 2 or 3 or maybe 4 or 5 things which I'd like the candidate to have, but they're nice to have. They're not critical. They're not absolutely essential. So, for instance, I can want that somebody I want as my corporate communications manager to be a great writer, but maybe the person is not a great writer, but has basic writing skills, has the basic writing abilities, which can be improved over a period of time. So I will not see that as a disqualifier. That because you don't have great writing skills, I will not hire you. You see what I mean?
Okay, okay, understood, sir.
Yeah. Okay. More questions? Shweta. Shweta. The name is
Hello.
Shweta?
Uh,
Yes, go ahead.
okay, sir, good evening. The side Khushbu.
Your name is
Khushbu.
Khushbu. Yes, Khushbu.
Yes, sir. So as a young professional, I wanted to know from you, like, if we posted a job for the fresher, and so the job will be done by a fresher, but the experience candidate also applied for the same role. And we know anytime experience will be better than the fresher because they bring their experience to the company. So, as a recruiter, it ethically correct that we will ignore the fresher and go with the experience one?
Okay. I it's a little bit like if I'm selecting a cricket team, will I go with experience, somebody who's 35 years old, has played several matches, or is it a fresher? These are instinctive things. You take a bet on a young person who's showing a lot of talent. So that's how I would see it. I'm not a HR person. Let me say that I don't think like an HR person, but uh, but just looking at what you just said, I would be inclined to uh, take both routes. I would not discount a fresher's claim to a job at all, um, um, over an experienced person. The experienced person has an edge, has a natural edge over others, but I would look closely at the background of the fresher, maybe have a couple of conversations, and then if I feel instinctively that it could be a right fit. I mean, ultimately, it's a punt that you're taking. It's a chance that you're taking. You will then present the fresher also as a potential candidate, and not only side with experience. I don't know if I gave you a wishy-washy answer or not.
No, sir, I got it. Thank you.
Okay. What else? No more questions?
Ladies, do you have any questions? Please do ask Sanjeev.
The other session that we have together is on the 30th of May. And there we're going to talk about how to conduct exploratory calls with candidates, and perhaps we can have a few mock conversations. How to effectively brief the candidate on the job profile. So some of these questions that you've asked in the past 10 or 15 minutes, maybe I'll try and come up with those answers in the context of the 4 things or 5 things that we're going to talk about on the 30th of May, which is Thursday. So how to effectively brief the candidate on the job profile, how to extract key information from candidates. So in the context of the question that I was just answering, freshers versus experienced candidates, probing really helps. The more you probe, the better equipped you will be to come up with answers and find the right talent. And we'll also talk about listening. We briefly talked about listening skills, why it's important to listen to people, but we'll talk at length on Thursday about active listening. It's when you listen that you learn about people. And the more you know about the candidate, the better equipped you are to recommend a candidate to the employer. That's on Thursday.
Thank you so much, Sanjeev. There is one question from Jega. Dumb question. Fresher mean fresh graduates 2023-24 or anyone who doesn't have job experience?
I think it means both. If you don't have job experience, you're a fresher. And if you just graduated, you're definitely a fresher. So both are freshers.
Okay, thank you so much, Sanjeev. So it was very, very interesting to hear you, and the delivery, the calm way you have explained and took up each question. Thank you so very much for that, and I'm sure there are a lot of takeaways from this session today. So we are very excited to see you on 30th again.
Yeah, let me say it's been a great pleasure for me to do this. And I really liked the questions that you asked me. So it wasn't a monologue. Monologues can be boring. So somebody speaks for 2 hours, you'll definitely fall asleep after the end of first hour.
I agree. No, but it has been pretty interesting and at the same time conversational session. So we are hoping for the same for the coming days. And thank you so much. We'll take your leave now and have a wonderful evening ahead.
You too.
Thank you so much.
Take care.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
You
Thank
too.
you,
Thank
sir.
you, sir.